attention to this short video.
This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community. This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar feels a sense of safety and belonging and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community. This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar feels a sense of safety and belonging and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form.
If you like the original, it's even better in rounds.
Would you like me to go just continue now?
Yeah.
Or do you want to replay it? Okay.
Let me go ahead and see if I can get it to replay.
This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organizations, but providing such information is voluntary. Citizens participating in person wishing to speak should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand in Zoom or submit a public speaker card, and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
All right. Thank you for going through our technical difficulties. Emily, please conduct a roll call.
Member Agier? Member Bankert?
Present.
Member Esquivel? Present. Member Essel-Sago?
Present.
Member James?
Present.
Member Lovejoy?
Present.
Member Miller?
Present.
Member Patel?
Here.
Member Saunders?
Here.
Member Shakaran?
Present.
Member Stark?
Here.
Member Wayne?
Here.
Vice Chair Carr? Chair Ash?
Here.
We do have a quorum with members Chahal and Torf absent.
Wow, I think that might be our best attendance. And we have a new member today from San Ramon, Alexander Agier? Agier. All right, can you take a minute and introduce yourself?
So I'm from the city of my name is Alexander Agier. I'm from the city of San Ramon. I currently attend University of California at Davis. I commute 2 times a week, which allows me to participate in this, in the Citizens Advisory Committee. And I'm looking forward to the next few years with everyone.
Great. And do we have anybody for public comment, either here in the audience or on Zoom?
We have not received any public comments, and there are no virtual public comments.
Awesome. Okay, we will skip ahead then. The next item on the agenda is the election of chair and vice chair for fiscal year 24-25. This will be effective July 1, and the new chair will conduct the next meeting to be held in July. We can handle the nomination and vote under one motion and roll call vote, or they could be done separately. It will be open up for nominations. A member can nominate themselves. The vice chair typically rotates into the chair seat if desired. It says that in my script, Mike, sorry. Do we have any nominations in a motion? And it is my understanding we're not going to meet in July, and we typically don't meet in August, so you won't even have to start. I could also share, it's really not a lot of work other than here. It's not hours a month. It's maybe 15 minutes more a month, if anybody's interested.
I make a motion, since we have a lot of people here, to make a motion for somebody to nominate themselves so we can vote for them.
Does anybody have any questions first? We can do that.
Will the vice chair be open position as well?
Both positions are open.
Christy, you can be chair.
Or we can.
I'll nominate myself for vice chair, if it's available.
Yeah. They're remodeling the room, so you might be able to take your chair home with you too, if you're on top of things.
Are
Okay,
you
we
willing to
have,
make a motion
yeah.
to nominate Michael Carr for chair and Christy Lovejoy for vice chair?
Michael, how do you feel about that?
I have a year left on my term. I'd be happy to do it for a year. I know to my left and right, former chairs did it for 2 years, and that may have been a COVID-related thing. So I would hope to do it for the year and serve out the term.
Yeah,
That would
COVID started throwing those 2-year balls, so I don't think
Yep.
you would
So,
have that fear.
Anyway, no, happy to step in if the group so wishes.
Do we have any other nominations? Anybody else could do it? Okay.
I'd like to second, there's a motion on the floor from Mr. Bankert, so I would like to second Mr. Bankert's nominations.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Okay, can we do, it doesn't say this in here, but why don't we take a minute from each speaker? I know I don't have any other nominations at the moment, but why don't you just reintroduce yourself to the group, tell a little bit about where you're from, what you're doing. I think that would be good in the process. Mr. Carr?
Yeah, Michael Carr. I live in the town of Danville. I've been in California now for about 8 years. Did a number of years of climate policy work with Shell before retiring and starting my own independent consulting in that space. So continue to do some of that, not so much in California, but more in the Pacific Northwest. Find transportation topics quite interesting, VMT quite fascinating. It's an interesting space where a lot of things converge, climate, housing, as well as traffic. So it's been interesting, really good that we're back in person. Really good. The Zoom format was necessary but painful.
So nice to meet you all in person.
Absolutely, and I think the meetings are standard has gone up as well. So anyway, that's probably a minute, if not a bit more. So let me stop there.
Member Lovejoy?
Yeah, Christy Lovejoy from El Sobrante. My background is in automotive, so manufacturing ICE engines, where I was pushing them into the EV direction. So I'm actively seeking roles in EV and AV. And one of my biggest interests in coming to this committee was, Glideways project in East Contra Costa. So very excited about that. And I'm just excited to be part of the conversations and hearing what's going on in this county and chirping in and asking questions. So very happy to be here.
Great. And before I move to the vote, I actually do, and Matt and I were talking about this before the meeting started. I think one of the things that I'm proudest the most is all of you. For those of you who were here years ago or remember it, I know some of you have been. I think we've really upped our game, right? in terms of the overall group and participation. Part of that is just being present, but I think a lot of you have come to the table, old and new members, with great questions. And I think we've really raised the level of that people think about us, both on the board of directors here and like at MTC, right? They know we are a stakeholder group they have to come to for Contra Costa County. And so I really appreciate all of you. With that, I will open up a vote for today. We have a nomination on the floor. Okay, Emily, can you take a roll call?
Member Agier?
I nominate the votes.
It's
Sorry
an
about
aye
that.
in favor of the vote.
Okay, aye.
Or
Thank you. Member Bankert?
Aye.
Member Esquivel? Yes. Member S. El Sego?
Aye.
Member James?
Aye.
Member Lovejoy?
Aye.
Member Miller?
Aye. Just kidding.
Member Patel?
Yes.
Member Saunders?
Yes.
Member Shakarian?
Yes.
Member Stark?
Yes.
Member Wayne?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr?
Aye.
Chair Ash?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with members Chahal and Torf absent.
Congratulations to both of you. All right. I got to skip half of my script now that it wasn't opposed, so hold on a second here. The next item on the agenda is consent calendar, which includes the summary of actions from the May 22nd, 2024 meeting and acknowledge of the member attendance log. Are there any changes or comments from the committee? Great. Any public comment? No.
We have not received any.
Okay. And we have no members of the public here or on Zoom, so we will skip ahead. Emily, please conduct a roll call vote. Can we just vote by like acclamation?
We cannot, unfortunately, no.
Okay.
We do need a motion, though.
Oh, I need a,
I move that we, no, wait, I was not present at the last meeting. I withdraw my motion.
Ed, just sit back, okay?
I'll move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you. Who's seconding that?
Christie
can
Lovejoy
second that.
seconds. Oh, I third it.
Whoever you got second there, we'll take it, whoever won. All right, now will you please conduct a roll call? Clearly, after 2 years of this, just, I'm ready.
Member Agier?
Present.
Member Bankert?
Yes.
Member Esquivel? Yes. Member S. El Sego?
Yes.
Member James?
Yes.
Member Lovejoy?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Abstain.
Member Patel?
Yes.
Member Saunders?
Yes.
Member Shakarian?
Yes.
Member Stark?
Yes.
Member Wayne?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr?
Aye.
Chair Ash?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with members Chahal and Torf absent and Member Miller abstaining.
All right, we will now move to the regular agenda items. We have 3 informational items. The first will be introduced by the legendary and superficial Matt Kelly and presented by Jack Hall.
Quite an introduction. Thank you, Chair. So our first item tonight, we've brought the cream of the crop of CCTA staff to you tonight. We've got 3 of our staff members here to present on 3 very interesting items. First is something that's really on the forefront of what we're doing here at CCTA and technology and providing mobility options for our residents. It's the automated driving system pilot. We received a grant for it, but I'll let Jack talk all about that. But I think it's really interesting. It's really pertinent because we are currently working on pilots and we're about to deploy a couple new ones, and that's really what we're here to share with you. So I will stop talking and turn over to Jack Hall and let him present the ADS.
All right, thank you, Matt. And good evening, Chair Ash and committee members. My name is Jack Hall. I am the Intelligent Transportation Systems, or ITS, Program Manager here at CCTA. So with tonight, I'm going to give you a short update on our Automated Driving Systems grant. First, a little background on the grant. In January of 2020, the U.S. DOT selected and awarded $7.5 million for our project application. We were one of 8 awardees out of 73 applicants in the country and the only local agency. All the other awardees were state DOTs or universities. And one of the reasons that CCTA was awarded this grant was because of our ability to test at Gomentum Station. And my understanding is that a lot of you have been out there. That's the old Concord Naval Weapons Station. But the U.S. DOT is aware that it's beneficial to test in a private, secure environment before going out on public roadways. And so the grant, the main purpose of the grant is safety, mobility choices for underserved communities, and promote better health. Our ADS grant consisted of 3 projects, which I'm going to talk about tonight. The first, Project 1, is the Rossmoor Shared Autonomous Vehicle Project in the Rossmoor Active Adult Community in Walnut Creek. Project 2 is the County Hospital Accessible Transportation Project, and that's in Martinez. And Project 3 is the Personal Mobility Project on I-680 between the towns of Danville and the city of San Ramon. So Project 1 is the Rossmoor Active Adult Community in Walnut Creek. Our vendor is a company named Beep out of Florida. And we're working with the general manager at Rossmoor, Jeff Matheson. And this is actually, we're doing a lot right now. We're testing the vehicles in Rossmoor, and we are planning on having a launch event and with media on July 18th. So this is actually you guys are hearing it from the very beginning. No one's really heard that before. So it's kind of exciting. Good thing that Lindy is here because it's a lot. The public outreach is a main deal. We had a town hall at Rossmoor on June 12th. It was very well attended. I think the only feedback that was negative is they would like to see us operate throughout the entire gated community. And we just don't have the funds for that yet, but it's a potential in the future. So this is the route. I don't know how familiar you are with Rossmoor, but it's a gated community. There's the Gateway Clubhouse, and then there's the Tice Fitness Center. And so we're going to run shuttles from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. between those 2 locations. And part of the reason that this route was chosen was because the Tice Fitness Center, the parking lot's very impacted, and for people to, they can park at Gateway and then take the shuttle to the fitness center. So the next, and then that one again, we're planning on launching on July 18th. The County Hospital Project, that is our partner is May Mobility. They're based out of Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and they run Toyota Siennas. This is a partnership with County Connection is a big partner on this project. And another big focus on this project is the operators. So you think of autonomous vehicles, and there are, like in San Francisco, there's cars with no drivers, but we do have a safety operator. They're called AVOs, Autonomous Vehicle Operator, and they help with wheelchairs and helping the patients or the riders get in and out to the hospital. But one of the big things there is the drivers are coming from County Connection, and they're union drivers. So that's it's the first in the United States. And so we have that agreement in place, and we're going to start training the operators at Gomentum Station, and then we'll roll them out to the streets in Martinez. And we're hoping to do that in August. And that's another big deal because, we've been working on these projects for a while, and they're starting to roll out. So that's the Toyota Sienna. There's 7 of them. 3 of them are wheelchair accessible. Our hours are going to be from 2 to 10 p.m., 2 to 6 p.m. will be running mainly just between the county hospital and various destinations like food banks, shelters, pharmacies to pick up medicines and back to the hospital. And that's mainly because we don't want to impact County Connection service. And then from 6 to 10, we'll be running in the Martinez area. That map, you can see it's blocked out. That's the area the shuttles will be running. And again, that's going, hopefully we'll deploy in August. And the main thing there is getting the drivers. That's what's holding us up right now. But I mean, it's been going well, especially for being a first. This is the Sienna. These vehicles come off the production line, ready for autonomous vehicles. You just have to put the robotics package on it. That makes for a much smoother ride than other vehicles that are retrofitted. This again shows the wheelchair. They're not officially ADA, however, they are wheelchair accessible. There's a lot of other things to make it a ADA, such as, for a vision impaired and hearing impaired. So it's pretty close, and it's similar to what County Connection runs right now with their Dodge Caravans. This is the facility that the May Mobility vehicles are located. It's in the Concord Business Park, just north of State Route 4, very near the County Connection yard. You can see that's Tim Hale, our executive director, and Bill Churchill, the general manager for County Connection, and then we have Lindy taking the photograph, so that's nice. Then the third project is the Personal Mobility Project on I-680, and in this project, our partner is Nissan and Verizon, but the Verizon piece is kind of gone down a little bit because they have eliminated their smart city unit at Verizon. But we did do testing with them. But this project is trying to use cooperative congestion management. And so what this will do on the main line of the freeway to reduce the shock waves and phantom traffic jams by using adaptive cruise control. So a lot of times, at least for me, I'll stop on the freeway and there's no reason for that. And so what we're trying to do here is using automation to smooth the traffic. Mainly is because cars are going too fast and then you hit a certain bottleneck, and that's what causes the phantom traffic jam. Also part of this project is vulnerable road users. We're looking at protecting pedestrians and bicyclists, and also unprotected left turns. This is the complete route. It starts at El Costa and then takes the Bollinger exit, goes up Bollinger Road, turns left onto Camino Ramon, then turns into actually to Bishop Ranch, 2600 Camino Ramon, and then goes out Executive Parkway. And then that's the city street portion. And that's where we actually have an agreement with the city of San Ramon, and we're putting in extra cameras to record the vehicles as they go through the intersections and see how they react with bicyclists and pedestrians. And that project should be starting actually the demonstration in late summer, maybe. So I'm shooting for August. We'll see how or September. This is at Gomentum Station, the old Concord Naval Weapons Station, where we did do testing with the Nissan vehicles and cameras using LiDAR and the heads-up display. And so I've been in the vehicle, and then actually it will tell you on the vehicle that there's a person there or bicycle. Part of this project is data, and so maybe I'll stop a question from coming, but I have the same question a lot of times is, how come we're not using Waymo or someone like that seems to be a little bit more advanced? And it's be part of this US DOT grant, we have to supply them with data. And a lot of these companies, they like to keep everything very proprietary, like they don't want to share the data. So this slide is going to show how the data flows. Oh, there it is. Okay. So this is all the data is coming in from roadside units, traffic signals, of the vehicles, Verizon, and then all the data goes to a collection place, and then we have all these servers that look at the data, and some of the data is going to be for the public, some is going to be for universities, and then there's also proprietary information that won't be released. So this shows the data. It's a pretty neat slide, but it's kind of complicated. So then here is another video. This one shows, so we're using a company named Hex out of France. And so you can see the LiDAR pictures on the front. And so all this data is coming in. But Hex, using statistics, can grab the data and then show like the important parts. Like here you'll see a pedestrian come out. That might happen once a week. But the data with this Hex software can pull that out. And then that's where also in the cities, you can look like if there's a place that needs an intersection that has a lot of accidents or something like that, you can use this data. I mean, it would be impossible to go through all the data from the autonomous cars, but by using this software, it pulls out the incidents that you can react to. And then this is not really the ADS, the Automated Driving System grant. However, it is autonomous vehicles. We are running these in Bishop Ranch. We have since April of 23. The use case here changed quite a bit. It was mainly brought on by there's no BART service down State Route 4, I-680, and it would be too expensive to put BART down 680. So we ran express buses from here in Pleasant Hill and Walnut Creek to the transit center in Bishop Ranch, and then the shuttles will take you to your office instead of having the buses go all around the whole business park. However, the business park is pretty empty right now. They're doing a lot of conversion to homes. And so right now we are running them still. And so anyone can go ride them. They are, we are riding, they operate from 7:30 to 5:30. And at lunch from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., there's 2 shuttles. This route could come back. The idea was really good in the beginning, but with COVID and a lot of the offices being not as full, it hasn't had the ridership that we would really like, but it's still good to test the autonomous vehicles. And just one note, that the vehicles, we're running different vehicles at Rossmore. They're called Ollies with a OXA robotics package. And here in Bishop Ranch, we're running Navias. And the difference is the speed is a lot better at Rossmore. So the technology is getting better. And this is a new system. So that's what we're doing. We're keep trying to upgrade the systems to make them better and better. And the Toyota Siennas in Martinez, those can go, in autonomous mode, they go to 35, but they can do what a normal Sienna does, but they would be in manual mode over 35 miles per hour. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate it. We're going to go around the room, which seems to be working for us to engage everybody. So I'm going to start this way with Mr. Sanders and ask your questions.
So, Jack, I'm just trying to understand the Rossmore thing. So is it going outside of Rossmore or it's inside Rossmore?
So it's exclusively inside the gated community. As part of our project application, we run it to go outside the gate to the Safeway. However, and this one also, the vendors have almost all changed on all 3 projects. With people are like startups, sometimes they go out of business, and so we've had to have a lot of changes. On this particular one, so Beep is our vendor, and the max speed is 12 miles per hour. And once you get outside the gates, the speed differential is too big for the autonomous vehicle and the public. And so right now we can't. We could, with a different platform, it could. And in fact, at the town hall that we had, I think it was June 12th, that was one of the requests. So if we can, and then the Federal Transit Administration has said that they want to try to encourage more development of existing projects, because it's very hard to get the project out of the ground. And so once you get it out of the ground, maybe the government will give us more money to expand it. But that is, we would like to go outside the gate. The residents want us to go outside the gate, and they would like us to go throughout the community inside the gate. So, I mean, we're not there yet, but we want to be there.
And so is this then, I mean, it seems like the opportunity is sort of limited. So is this basically a trial to explore or get feedback from people? Because if it went outside the gate, I think there'd be massive numbers of users and a significant increase in safety in that area. But it seems like it's going to be pretty limited inside.
Exactly. All three of these projects are pilot projects to get data, to increase safety, and we're trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and then also improve congestion without widening roads. This technology, we feel like we can get more throughput.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your presentation. I also have a question regarding Rossmore, and I believe, do they have like a regular bus route that runs throughout the entire community?
Yes, they do. So before the pandemic, they had it's called a circulator. It was a cutoff bus, and they don't have that service anymore, but they do have what's called Dial-A-Ride. So they do have that. It's a cutoff bus. Excuse me. But we're going to work with them. Should not impact them at all. However, the existing Dial-A-Ride will go to someone's, like, it has a lot, I mean, because it's manual drive, you can go anywhere. These vehicles will only stay on the route. And then we're looking actually to we're going to get it going on July 18th, but then maybe start running it to the event center at the golf course.
Okay. And as a follow-up, I was
Okay.
curious. I guess, so this is an autonomous, bus, and I was curious, could you walk us through like the calculation of having it be an autonomous vehicle versus like a manual bus?
Sure. So, I mean, it's the robotics package. And really, you can put a robotics package on any vehicle. I mean, I've even asked the question, like, can you put it on a stick shift? And you can actually retrofit anything to make it autonomous. So how you do it, you get a robotics package. And this happens, the project in Rossmore has a company out of England doing it, OXA. So there's not a lot of American companies doing this. Robotics Research, which was one of our partners with a company named Local Motors, they went out of business. So, but the robotics company, Robotics Research, they do a lot of Department of Defense work. But they're not doing these vehicles right now.
Okay. Or I guess, could you kind of walk us through like maybe the decision to stick with an autonomous like robotics bus versus, one staff with a person, for example?
So, I mean, so right now, if these are pilots, so I mean, right now, I mean, you're still, for access, you're better off with a driven vehicle because they can go anywhere. These can only go on the route that's been mapped. So they use GPS and sensors and LiDAR. It's almost like a train track. So they, I mean, that's the only place they can go right now. I mean, hopefully we'll get better. So I don't know if I'm really, I mean, why did we choose? Oh yeah, this is a federal grant. So, I mean, we applied for the federal grant. It's for autonomous vehicles. Like, if you can't get this grant unless you're doing autonomous vehicles.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation, Jack. So I just had two questions on the Martinez site. You mentioned that you're partnered with LAVTA and that you're using union staff to oversee kind of the operations of each autonomous vehicle. So in past, I've heard some resistance from transit agencies to shift to autonomous because of the impact on their workforce. So are you able to use this as an opportunity to sort of frame it as a training or a labor training opportunity, or is there been any thought put towards that, or is it simply just because you guys needed staff and LAFTA was a good resource for that?
No, this is a workforce development. So TransDev is really big company. In fact, I think they bought First Transit, who was one of their competitors. And we used to do a lot with First Transit, actually, when we ran autonomous shuttles at Bishop Branch in like 2014, 2016 timeframe. So TransDev has a global autonomous vehicle unit, and they're involved in this project too, which is helping us quite a bit because this is a big jump for this training. And I think the companies are seeing that this is the future. And so that helped us. The global TransDev is helping us with the local TransDev. And then County Connection, it's not LAFTA, you said LAFTA, but we have worked with LAFTA, but that was more Gomentum Station, not CCTA. So, I mean, that's Livermore, and this is out here in Concord. So it's workforce development. Again, it's a pilot. The drivers, the announcement is open right now to volunteer for this. I mean, they actually get. Actually, I probably shouldn't say too much because I don't. You know, I'm not. That's County Connections deal too. Okay. But we'll get the driver's licenses, and then you have to submit those to the Department of Motor Vehicles to get authorized to operate an autonomous vehicle. And then we're going to train at Gomentum Station while they're getting that authorization to try to hit that August launch date. But this is my understanding. So the company May Mobility, who's our vendor, they also have a very strong advocacy group trying to promote this driver transition. And the only other project that might be doing this is like a big coach bus project in Connecticut. However, I don't think that one's still kind of a thought. So this is both the Rossmore and this project will likely make national news. I mean, that your point is that's a big part of this.
Yeah, okay. And so there's an opportunity for like Lindy to take the lessons that you guys learn from the operator perspective and kind of maybe not educate, but inform some of the transit agencies on the benefits of this shift.
Did you say Lindy? Because I mean,
yeah,
yes, thank
Lindy.
goodness for Lindy being here. We had a gap when we didn't have anyone in that position. It was difficult. So I mean, because I'm an engineer, and it's nice to have someone that really knows what they're doing with public outreach and talking to people.
Okay, so that's good. Yeah, that's good to hear. I think the other question I had was on the personal mobility project, the one that was running on 680. So for that one, you mentioned that there's cooperative congestion management, and I was interested in how does the vehicle, how do you do that while you're interacting with non-autonomous vehicles on the freeway? How do you do this kind of smoothing effect that you were?
Right, so this project has challenges. I mean, they all have challenges, but this one, when we first started this project, it was with Intel and, well, I'll just go with Intel and Mobileye. And we were going to run 100 vehicles down 680, and then we got the award, and they quit the next day. So we had to really revamp this project. And the cooperative congestion management or the adaptive cruise control is not level 4, which level 4 is autonomous, and this is, we call it 2+. So that project it's not as ideal as we'd like. And great to see you, because I've worked with you on the highway project. So anyway, I appreciate that. It's great to see you. Back to, so like, I don't know if, I have like a couple funnels with rice in them, and it shows how like if cars are going too fast and you pour something in real fast, it just jams up. But if you put it at a steady flow, then the the cars will go through, and it's just the more throughput. So that's the idea. But we don't have enough vehicles, and they're not autonomous, to really prove this one out. And so that's why we have the San Ramon portion too, where we have the cameras and unprotected left turns and pedestrians and bicyclists.
So other data from other segments of that project.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm going to follow up on the congestion. I did have a suggestion. I don't know if it's, so I've been taught by my husband not to step on my brakes. He pretty much says, when you step on your brakes, everyone else is going to step on your brakes. Bad girl. Let go. Just let the, so he's teaching me. He's like, no, you're causing problems. Do it right. So since you have videos on that project, why don't you just send a message to all the people who step on the brakes and say, hey, take a driving course and might help with the congestion. And I am kind of curious about that too. So I do want to applaud you for, I think it is a big deal for the traffic. So I guess I'm learning to do my part, but anything will help out there with the congestion. So just teaching others. We are humans. I know that we have driverless vehicles, but we're still all humans, and you're going to have that one driver out there stepping on their brakes, and somebody just nudging them and saying, "Just let go," and it'll flow. Just learn to flow, chill. That might help. I mean,
yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do here, and it may be automated in the future, but. What you described is what we're trying to reduce.
Yes, okay, thank you. So, yeah, but you have the videos and the technology, and you can just nudge nicely, like nice nudge. Okay, I do have a lot of comments. My big one is the data. Please, thank you. I think you do support that the data needs to be public. Yes. Please make the big data available for developers. We have probably a PhD student over there. Making the data available to the public, to developers, so that we can also assist in developing the next generation of technology. So just making the data available to the public is commendable. Thank you. Okay, so have you thought about making orange the color of autonomous vehicles? So there's dedicated right-of-ways, and you said they're almost like a train or a dedicated right-of-way. So what if, I know it's expensive, but what if we painted the routes, the streets that are meant to be public transit dedicated autonomous vehicles? That way I know as a pedestrian, oh, be careful, there's there's supported autonomous vehicles. And the next question would be, should bicycles use that if it's painted orange? Well, I'm claiming orange for autonomous vehicles. You can pick a different color. But yeah, that we should brand it. And should bicycles encourage on those autonomous driveways, or should they go somewhere else? Or, does it make sense? So.
Right, so there are studies done where you have right of way just for autonomous vehicles. We're not doing that in this pilot. And then I've also seen where bicycles have sensors on them and an autonomous vehicle really won't hit a bicycle or a pedestrian.
But will it slow? Yeah. Remember, we want to flow.
Yeah, so we want everything to flow. So those were all great questions, and a lot of like Matt's and planning. That's stuff that we're looking at for the future. Even like the designs of cities. Increasing green space because you don't have to have as many roadways, parking all around the drop-off zones because maybe everybody shows up at the same time instead of parking your vehicle because the vehicle might drop you off and then go do something else while you're working. So there's a lot of studies that still, we're working on all those. Maybe not CCTA in general, but private consultants, and those are all issues, very good issues that they're being studied.
Okay, and then, sorry. Okay, so any lessons learned for the future planning of public transit agencies that we should think about now? And for instance, for me, I want more consistent headways. So we're looking at the BART, and it's, well, BART's BART, but for public transit. In Contra Costa, I don't take the bus because I don't get the service frequently enough. So by going autonomous, am I going to have more service as a customer person? So is that something that we can help improving and think about in terms of saving?
Right, and the goal is to improve service and safety, but you know, we're collecting data, and so we can see exactly what's going on. And then I know we have other projects here at CCTA where the bus transit preemption can go through a signal faster if they have so many riders on board. So it all works together to try to improve service. We're doing it to improve service.
Okay. So for instance, kind of like an Uber, but for public transit, where I can say I want to go from point A to point B, can we do that with autonomous technology?
Right, and that's the Martinez project actually is
Okay.
what you're saying. And it's Siennas, it's not the big coaches, it's Toyota Siennas, and that might work better. I don't know, but that's what we'll find out in the pilot.
Okay. And that was my last question on this. No, in Martinez, when I saw all the vehicles parked in the garage, I didn't see electric chargers. Are they electric vehicles? And are you trying?
They're hybrids.
They're hybrids. Okay, but I didn't see the chargers in the garage. I don't know if it just.
So, oh, I see. Oh, at the May Mobility garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they do have any chargers there. They're hybrids.
Oh.
Yeah.
They're not public. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jack, for your presentation. Just one quick question. On the second element or the second project, which was the county hospital, if you could elaborate on what and how are the users going to be using? Is this on a call by demand basis? I mean, residents of the county who need to go to the hospital, they can use this service?
Right, so that's a great question that I kind of eliminated that from. So when we first did the application, it was for people that were missing appointments. And what would happen, the patient would miss their appointment, and then you end up having to go to the ER. So that's, and then that increases cost. So that's how we wrote up the application. Subsequently, the pandemic happened, and then now you have virtual appointments. So that use case basically went away, but we had the grants. So we revised the use case, and that was actually a big challenge, working with the hospital. And so it turns out there's certain individuals that kind of fall through the cracks. They don't qualify for a free like Uber ride, yet they don't really have the means for I don't know what reasons, but to get a ride. And so I've been to the hospital and talked to the people at the door and stuff, and they said there is a lot of people that need these rides. So we're still working with, so that's what it's for, mainly for people that fall through the gaps on that.
Okay, thank you.
Quick question. I just was curious on the level of use, in terms of ridership for the programs, more specifically around the autonomous programs like Bishop Ranch and Rossmore. How many people are using it per day, and how many stops are there?
Right. So the Bishop Ranch, actually, I don't have it on me, but we have the data on that. 1,700 per year. Oh, since we started. So a little over a year, we've had 1,700 people ride the shuttle. Again, the use case kind of changed there because of the pandemic. I mean, we would have hoped for a lot bigger number than that. But that's where that one's fallen. And then Rossmore, we haven't deployed yet, so we're going to deploy on July 18th, and that's part of the data that we're going to get.
Great. Look forward to it. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jack, for the presentation. I think you cleared it up. So, yeah, the Martinez, at first when you get it, I was thinking, was this part of the paratransit program that County Connection has? But I guess, so it isn't, sounds like, so this is, to get these vehicles, it's the hospital is the one that if they're the ones that are negotiating or are presenting the users, is that correct?
Correct.
And that's just the county hospital?
It's the county hospital, so we're working with County Connection. There's a, like Kaiser, there's a few hospitals in
The
the area.
Veterans Hospital too?
The veterans, right. So as the project evolves, we want to we want to improve service everywhere, not just the county hospital. But right now, we're started, and what you described in the beginning is how the project, when we applied, it was actually taking a county connection bus, and we were going to retrofit it with a robotics package. And that's what the application said. However, NVIDIA was our partner on that. And then subsequently, we found out when you retrofit a bus that it can never go back into normal service. And so and then NVIDIA didn't want to participate anymore. So anyway, that project evolved, and we had to go out and it was last summer, we procured May Mobility to operate. So it was going to be a county connection paratransit vehicle, but that changed through the life of the project.
So, these are, so each one of these vehicles is gonna have a attendant, but he's not gonna be the driver, or it's gonna do a little both, or?
Yeah, they're called AVOs, Autonomous Vehicle Operator. So they sit there, they're like a safety operator. So say someone doesn't need assistance, they'll still be sitting behind the wheel. And they're gonna be a TransDev, a County Connection sub that'll be doing this operation. So, if you're asking, I don't see where the savings is, because you still got, that's why we're doing pilots still, the technologies. Waymo, though, they are doing it in San Francisco, so, but,
I was thinking it, but I wasn't gonna say it. But, so what about if a person wanted to use this, do they have to contact the hospital or?
Right, so there's going to be an app. It's called the May Mobility app, and then so we're working with the hospital at the concierge at the hospital, like how when someone comes up, and there was a meeting today in transportation at the county hospital, and I'm waiting to hear back, but that's something that we're still working through on that. There's going to be an app, but how does the patient, when they come out, know that they need this app? So we'll have someone there to help. And then hopefully through word of mouth, we'll work and we'll try to promote it as much as possible. And then on a follow-up too, Lindy has been working with us on this too. There's a 211, and so the AVO can help maybe just get other services out to people that are in need. So that's what there's more than just being a safety person on the operator side.
All right, well, thanks.
Thank you.
So obviously, out of the three projects, Bishop Ranch is the one centered around office space. And, given the commercial real estate market the past few years and for the foreseeable future, it's a little bit of a shaky topic. I wanted to ask, so like you said, a lot of Bishop Ranch has been restructured into residential housing, but there's also a lot of office-to-office restructuring going on, if that makes sense, within Bishop Ranch. Being from San Ramon, I kind of spend a little bit of time over there, and I see that some office spaces are being converted for new tenants. So I just wanted to ask, is CCTA continuously coordinating with Sunset Development, to stay on top of the numbers and, to determine the vacancy in each office building to create the most optimal route? Because I saw the route on the slide, and it's a pretty decent route. Obviously, it's a pilot program, so I'm sure that's not going to be the final route. So yeah, I just wanted to ask, are you guys still coordinating with Sunset Development to make sure that, the vehicle passes by the most amount of people to ensure that ridership is high?
So we do coordinate with Sunset Development a lot. They're one of our better partners, or I can't say best partner, but they're a really good partner. And the city of San Ramon too. Sunset Development is a big player in San Ramon. So we do work with them. It is a pilot. There's probably more we could do to try to improve ridership, but we are working on that at all times. And our communication lines with Sunset is very good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a couple questions, more from the legal perspective. So I know this is it's been a hot topic, at least I've been reading quite a bit on it. In case of an accident or an incident, who bears the responsibility?
So we meet with the first responders and we go through training on how to address a vehicle. So like there's certain lift points on the shuttles, like if you lift it in the wrong spot, the roof might just come off. So there's different lifting points. So we make sure that the first responders are aware of those. There's a lot of insurance with all these agreements for responsibility. I mean, if I understand your questions right, like if there's an accident, who's going to be liable? And I'd have to go to an attorney. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
That's a tough one. I've seen this scenario like a ball rolls out, or does the car hit the older person or the young kid? Those are tough scenarios that I don't think have been answered.
Okay. I thought, I was thinking about that because I think it was Rosmore that's using the robotics package, I think that you were referring to.
The robotics package at Rossmore is OXA.
Okay. So I guess my question with that was that what fail-safe mechanism exists to handle any unexpected scenarios? Is it the I guess you call it AVOs, or is there like some type of switch that can automatically be triggered?
So those are great questions. So there are almost all of these companies have remote sensing. So like May Mobility has a place in Ann Arbor, Michigan that's tracking these vehicles and can relay information to the vehicle. The BEEP vehicles that are in Bishop Ranch and in Rossmore, those vehicles have a center. It's called the BEEP Command Center. It's in Florida. And then Nissan has what's called SAM. And I had that written. It's boy, that's a tough one. Anyway, so Nissan, their engineers, they split time at NASA, and the way this system, seamless autonomous mobility, that's what it is, SAM, and it was actually generated from the Houston, and in Houston with the rover, the lunar rovers, and so they had the lunar rover on the moon, and they had like say 16, 17 engineers. I'm just throwing that, and I don't know what the actual number is. Monitoring that vehicle. And so Nissan working with NASA reversed that. And so they have one engineer sitting in an office monitoring while multiple cars are out operating in the street. So these vehicles do run into issues, like say maybe a FedEx truck or something is double parked making a delivery. Sometimes the vehicle cannot, maybe it won't cross a line because that's against the law. So it can ask the command center if it's okay, and then the sensors will tell whether or not it's clear. The car will go around and continue on its route. But then you also have the safety driver on board, just in case the computer gives you the wrong info. They'll say no, or they might have, they do have the ability to say yes to like a command coming in from an outside area.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Have a couple questions. First off, Presto in San Ramon. I had a chance to ride the vehicle. It was very cool. Just wondering, so I know it's been in operation about a year in the pilot phase. When does that pilot phase come to an end? And knowing that there's changing landscape, what are the plans for the future in the next phase?
Right, so that is, again, it's a federally funded grant. And it just got an extension, actually, and then Ying is here. What's the extension on that? 8 more months? So it's 8 more months. So this, I work on the autonomous shuttle portion, and then Ying is working on what's called the mobility on demand portion, which is a app that you can hail different modes of operation. So that project has just got an 8-month extension, and so that's how much longer. Unless, at the same time, working with Sunset Development, they might want to fund it, and as the technology gets better, So it could be a longer term, but we look at it from a funding perspective, our grant's gonna run out. So we would need another partner, such as Sunset, to come in and help fund that.
Yeah, that dovetails really nicely into my next question about Rossmore. So, federally funded right now, but it's a private gated community. So would the next phase, would that be like a public-private partnership or completely private, or any ideas on where that might go?
No, that's fabulous. You should work here. A public-private partnership is ideal, and it would work probably with a company named Beep that's operating it and the residents of Rossmore. So there's that. Actually, that's the first I've heard that thrown out on this particular project, but that makes a lot of sense because and they need the transportation. And we can't just fund that, so it would have to, but then Beep wants to do the operation too. So that's a perfect match.
Last question. So with the 680 project, is that something? I know that that's an information gathering project. Is that something that might turn into an operations type mobility service at some point?
We would hope so. In my opinion, it's a great use case because who wants to slow down on the freeway when there's no reason to? You can increase the throughput. You just have to control the speed. Right now, we have highway patrol to do that, but and then when you see a highway patrol controlling the speed, sometimes there's a bigger impact in a negative way because people are looking. So this would be, you might lose a little bit of your own control because this would all be happening automatically. But I think hopefully people would be happy because they're going to get to their destination a lot sooner.
Absolutely.
And safer.
Yeah, great work. Thanks for your presentation.
Thanks. Ed Miller, Clayton. By the way, this speaks to something very important to me just because my mother lives in a rural area in another state, and macular vision problems and mobility issues and stuff, and just getting to doctor's appointments is a real challenge in a little town without adequate transportation. So I wanted to ask a couple of questions, one about Rossmore, but I think I may have heard the answer a little while ago. I was kind of struck by how limited the hours were, 8 a.m. to 5 a.m. Well, first of all, it's a pilot, but second, the AVOs. So it's not just like you can run this around the clock 24 hours a day because you actually, there's a human cost of having to have AVOs. I hadn't realized that. I was thinking it was fully automated because of its limited track, so to speak, and whatnot. But the question that I had about the 680, there we go. So what I was going to say was on the 680 project, I understand that part of the goal there is possibly speed control, to ease congestion for the phantom things. One of the things I was going to say was the missing link with efficiency in some of the transportation issues. I used to work at Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, and I never took mass transportation because it would take 3 hours to get from my home in Clayton to that. But one of the pieces that I noticed was very awkward was the, Contra Costa buses would take you to the Walnut Creek station, BART station, but then it was Walnut Creek, you'd then have an option to go to the Bollinger transit thing. There's no point-to-point connector on the BART station. We know we're not going to put track down there, but the one thing that has always been missing that I think there is something that goes straight from the Walnut Creek station to the Dublin, Pleasanton BART station to, without having to lay a few billion dollars worth of track and whatnot. So if this project expands in scope or is successful, is adopted somewhere, as you're looking for partners to adopt some sort of the operational aspects of it, the two pieces that come to mind are, one, this could be Bart's leg, you know, between those 2 points. The other partners are, you know, you've got your Contra Costa kind of CCCTA, and then there's that uncomfortable transition over to Tri-Valley. So maybe there's an opportunity for joint partnership there in helping create the connector between those two. That's the completeness of my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and great points. And just on a side note, on the ADS grant that we received, University of Iowa was also one of the recipients, and they did exactly what you're, well, they ran on rural roads in a bus, a cutoff bus. And so I could get you some data on that. It was a pretty good project. But it's the same kind of scenario that you described.
Well, and these rural communities are hospital poor. I mean, their hospitals are essentially like nothing more than fancy operating rooms. My mother, for example, every real medical appointment that she has is 90 minutes away to Lubbock, Texas, or to Roswell, New Mexico. And so, and there's no public infrastructure, you know, in that state really to accommodate those things for elderly people who fall in the very crack that you're talking about. You know, they're not poor enough to get, you know, free services, but they're also not living high on the hog either. Thank you. I appreciate those comments.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jack. Maybe a slightly different question. I hear everything we're trying to do with data. I hear pilots that success would look like some life after the pilot funding is over. The tension point I see, and you brought it up, and remember Wayne wanted to bring it up, is aggregation of autonomy versus customization of autonomy, which is what I'll call what Waymo does, where it goes and grabs a person and makes a bespoke journey on their behalf. What are we doing, if anything, with kind of thinking through those points of tension? We're learning something around aggregation of riders into these vehicles, and will we get to a place where it'll inform, you know, is aggregation the better approach, or customization of the rides, or, you know, what sort of package of automation ultimately rises to the top as the best approach for the county?
So I hope I understood the question.
I hope I did too.
But
buses versus taxis.
So we want to give people options to get to their destination, and then the transit side, like May Mobility, that one would be more efficiency, I think. I mean, I don't know. Aggregation, you're saying like a coach bus that's fully loaded? Is that what I'm hearing? I know that's what I'm...
Well, buses versus taxis, a nice simplification. Yeah. On the one hand, if you know, there are smaller towns that 10 years ago got rid of their local bus service and went to Uber 100%, because they found that actually worked better for them. I'm not suggesting that's the answer for the county, but there's some interesting extremes that you can look at in terms of how to roll out automation. And as we learn through these pilots and learn through other experiences, how do we come to what is the ideal future that is enabled by automation?
Yeah, I would kick that question to Lindy, because I don't know how to answer that. You know, we're doing the pilots, and maybe that can help answer some of these questions. But again, I don't know how to answer that.
I do think that it certainly invites a much larger conversation, one which I'd be happy to come and participate in. I think that as an agency, our stance is that first and last mile is a huge concern, and if we can find ways in which people can still travel en masse together that solves first and last mile problems. I'll use that word here. I think that it's something we're certainly interested in, and I think certainly also interested in the innovation and exploration and want to be part of that and trying to understand what does work for people and in what circumstances. Also, we have a lot of cars on the road, right? So if we could find something that was more on demand but still carried 10 to 15 people, right, that still reduces VMT pretty significantly. Not to get into the philosophical debate about whether VMT should be the measure to look over at Matt. But I do just want to acknowledge, like, there's a lot of philosophical question deep within the question that you're asking. But from a simple standpoint, I think we're just interested in understanding different use cases.
Maybe, Matt, the thing for us to consider in a future meeting is Waymo is going to get attention in the city from moving to, you don't have to be part of the subscribers, you can pretty much call it on demand. I have a daughter who lives in Phoenix who loves Waymo because there's not a driver she has to talk to when she's in the vehicle. She likes that part of the autonomy. As that continues to get airplay, I think it's a question that will come to Contra Costa. Why can't we have Waymo here? And kind of what does the decision-making process look like for that? And does this committee have a role in perhaps informing that at some point in the future?
I think, Matt, when we finished up the tour of Momentum Station, Tim answered that and said it's actually a density problem for Waymo. There's not enough recurring business on a easily confined route. Is that, yeah. Okay, so Jack, thank you for staying with us and answering all of these questions. I think, as I pointed out, I'm really proud of this committee for participating and asking intelligent questions. Although I'm impressed with Rosa's backseat driver versus mine, because mine has a very different philosophy about how I drive and how often I should be hitting the brakes versus going as fast as I do. And I will point out that yesterday, driving back from Santa Cruz, it took an hour and 20 minutes from Santa Cruz to Walnut Creek. It took 49 minutes from Walnut Creek to, at the Rudgear exit, to Oak Grove and Ignacio. So when we talk about transit and the pains, that was 4.5 miles. It took me 40, yeah, I mean, just crazy. So my questions, though, Jack, putting this back here, are, and this one might be for Lindy. How are the seniors in Rossmore? Like, are they excited about this technology? Are they terrified? What's like that? I would think college campus. Ooh, cool, innovation. Let's try this out. No drinking and driving. Yay. The seniors tend to embrace technology things slower. What's the response we're getting?
So we had a town hall, and then we also worked, we were participated in an Earth Day event, so where we interacted with a lot of residents. Your question is a great one, because I think maybe 5 years ago, there was some concern. I got the feeling that they're saying, bring it now and bring more. We only have the money to have a limited access. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. And then after the town hall, I heard 3 different descriptions of what took place. So everyone that hears it has a different perspective. So it wasn't really in concern of safety. I think my opinion was that it was well received, and they're looking forward to it.
I think the only thing I would add is that the community is very conscious of each other, which is really cool to see. And we heard 2 things pretty consistently. One is that they're concerned about their community members who can no longer drive and their access to things even as close as the Safeway, right? But particularly BART in downtown Walnut Creek. And so the idea of something coming in that could provide access was really exciting. The other thing is there is some safety concerns, as someone joked about, in that community, and as some people are maybe driving into a point in which driving isn't as easy for them as it had been at one point. And so as the result of that, there was a lot of interest in how this might be helpful in getting some folks to not drive when maybe they're not as safe to drive, for example, as it's getting darker, because there might eventually be more options for them than just getting in their car.
Great answer.
Well, my backseat driver would agree with you. Never mind. Okay, and then my other question was, somebody recently told me that if every vehicle was autonomous, it would only reduce traffic by 6%. And that just seemed unreal, because if we got to V2X technology, where, I mean, we're talking 20 plus years into the future, but if the 680 corridor and the traffic lights are timed better and the cars are communicating, so when somebody hits the brakes 50 cars up, your car knows it, and they're all getting closer to each other. Are we talking only 6%, or anything you could shed on that? Given your expertise, I would just appreciate your insights.
Sure. No, I have not seen any results like that. I don't know, maybe Matt. So I haven't seen that.
Yeah, that's new to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen maybe some people talking about how the vehicles won't know what to do at an intersection, but that can all be fixed with algorithms, in my opinion. So, I mean, I think that was, I've seen that, some people kind of like wary of that, but other than that, I've only seen enhanced performance of the roadways.
I would have to imagine.
We did some research in the past where we thought we could fit, a third more cars per lane. Normally, a general purpose lane carries about 2,000 vehicles per hour, and we think, a fully autonomous lane could carry closer to 3,000 vehicles per hour. So I don't know how that fits into what you heard, if it was all lanes or,
That sounds more like what I had remember hearing at the Redefining Mobility Summit over the last couple of years or other places. So I was shocked by that number, and I didn't think it was true. So I think you helped clarify that. Ed, did you?
Yeah, just a quick thing. And it's not just about like density of vehicles on the road for the throughput. If you're averaging throughput over a long period of time, you also you'd have to include crash aversion and stuff like this. So you don't have, the Bay Bridge is closed right now because 2 lanes are closed or due to an accident. Won't help with sideshows, but I'm just saying, I think there's maybe a bigger number out there other than just increased density and things traveling closer. It's aversion from accidents and mistakes.
Awesome. Jack, thank you. I know that took a while, and you were actually 2 questions shy of getting a bonus from Tim for putting up with us, but sorry to disappoint you.
All right, well, thank you.
The always diligent and responsive and smiling Emily, trying to up my compliments. Have we received any written public comment? Has anybody here or on Zoom?
We have not received any public comments.
Okay, awesome. The next item on the agenda will be introduced by the fabulous Matt Kelly and presented by the soon-to-be Employee of the Month, Lindy Johnson.
Thank you, Chair Ash. So Lindy is back after a few months off. We are beginning to start our public outreach events for the good weather season, and I think that's what Lindy is going to talk about today. I'll just hand it over to her.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Chair and committee members. It's really wonderful to be back here with you all. I had the opportunity to meet a few of you over Zoom, but this is the first time I've gotten to be in person. So thank you for joining me here tonight. I did want to give a quick external affairs update, and quickly I wanted to mention this update relates primarily to our communication and community engagement activities. The presentation does not cover legislative or government affairs work, but if that is of interest to the group, please let Matt know. I'd be happy to come back and talk about what we're kind of doing in the policy space at the federal and state level and sort of what our priorities have been this year and in the years to come. On a related note, Edward, I did just want to mention that there is work being done with County Connection and LAFTA to look at an express bus between Walnut Creek and Dublin. There's actually some dollars in there that Matt could probably speak to that actually are being used as a potential VMT mitigation effort. So there's a lot to talk about there, and I won't divert us there, but I wanted to just mention there's a lot that we get to touch here at CCTA that relates to state and federal policy. Moving into communications and community engagement, though, I just want to make sure this is going to move. Oh. There we go. All right, success. So I wanted to touch briefly on audiences and sort of who we're targeting in this next and upcoming fiscal year. All of our audiences are important, and this graphic doesn't mean to downplay that. But we are going to be undertaking some new efforts really concentrated on the general public, the media, and our stakeholder groups, this group included. Whereas we're not necessarily taking on new efforts related to public officials and agencies or transit operators, though they both continue to be incredibly important partners. I wanted to more highlight some newer things or things that we're thinking of that really more relate to these three groups. So first of all, our community event series. So hopefully you all are aware that last year we undertook our first summer event series. We went to every city. There was a large report put together, which as I came on board was really helpful. I got to look at kind of where we saw a lot of success, what we learned from this first endeavor, and really what our employees were able to bring forward about their experience volunteering at all of these different events. As a result, I sort of changed and shifted a few things. I decided to go quality over quantity and acknowledge that some of our events we didn't necessarily see the same turnout, and that it is a big ask on all of our employees to attend many, many, many events over the summer, particularly at a time of year when people are often on vacation and taking time with families. So instead we said, well, where did we see a lot of interest, a lot of engagement, and at the same time, how do we disperse those geographically so that we're touching all parts of our county? We kind of highlighted 12 events we thought best fit that. There is an openness to potentially doing 13 to 14 throughout this. So while we have 12 for sure, we may take on a few more as they come up. And one of the things I hope to pose to all of you as a question is what you feel like might be really important in your community that we may just have missed or haven't heard of yet, or that might be new this year or was new this year that we should think of next year. So I'm hoping you all can help to inform that. We did update a lot of our creative materials for the community event series. I've also renamed it the community event series because it doesn't just take place over the summer, and I thought it was worth highlighting that. We also added a spin wheel, something a little more interactive, and that also would reduce some folks coming up and just taking a whole bag full of things for the fun of it. More than anything, though, it does get folks to come up, engage with us, hopefully talk to us. And we do ask folks to take the survey or like us on Facebook as a result of spinning the wheel. We don't enforce that, but it is a request that's put out there. As a result tonight, if anyone wants a pen or a pair of sunglasses, I do have them on me. So as CAC members, you're more than welcome to them. I wish I have the wonderful little wooden cutting boards that we've given out this year, but they're super popular, so they've mostly been given out. So these are the events that we have upcoming. We will be at Hercules National Night Out. We actually recently received an ask to be at San Pablo's National Night Out as well, so we're going to explore that. We'll be at the Tinkers and Thinkers Innovation Fair in Pleasant Hill, always a great family event. The Hot Summer Sunday Car Show, which is actually down in the San Ramon Danville area. We're going to be at the Antioch Big Truck Day, which Emily has helped us to really hone in on. We're going to be at Lafayette Art and Wine, and this year we're doing 2 days instead of one. It was our most successful event, and it's just a real draw for that whole area. So we've decided that instead of going to Lafayette, Moraga, and Orinda, we'll do 2 days at Lafayette and then rotate each year between Moraga and Orinda. It's not up there, but this year we are exploring the Pear Festival because it's a big deal. I believe it's the 50th anniversary of the town of Moraga, and so they're celebrating with their big Pear Festival this year. In October, we'll attend the Clayton Oktoberfest, and then we will go to Brentwood for Hometown Halloween, which will actually, as of now, be our last event in this community event series. So I have a whole presentation, but I actually was going to pause here and kind of open it up, but given that I've kind of observed how these meetings generally go, would you prefer that I wait until the end and folks can? Perfect. Okay, that's what I'll do. So outside of the wonderful community event series, we've also been doing some website maintenance and improvements. So we just recently launched an accessibility page. We're actually still honing in on that. Ying gave me notes today that we'll be kind of working through, but it is important to us that there is somewhere on our website that specifically speaks to accessible transportation and seniors, especially as we're really growing those areas with our new office of accessibility and equity. So that is a new addition. We also updated our homepage this year and added a community input hub, which is a place where folks can hear about these upcoming community events. They can know of all the surveys we might have active. There's a place for them to request a speaker in case they're part of a Rotary Club or a Seroptimus or any of those kinds of service clubs. If you all know any in your community that take speakers, please throw our name out there. We'd really love to be able to connect better with those groups in our community, and they often book about a year out. So we're trying to get the word out. So those are some of the main kind of online digital changes. We've also been upping our social media presence and trying to invest a little bit more in growing that. So if you don't already follow us on social media, but you do have it, we'd really invite you to come be part of our online community. We're also doing some more technical outreach, or just spending some time thinking about our technical outreach and what can be made more evergreen, or how we can better engage with our community. For example, when we did the McCollum Trail Bike and Pedestrian Overcrossing, we reached out to the local bike shops. They actually brought bike racks and were able to participate in the event. We also reached out to a lot of clubs that were interested in biking in that community, and we got a really great turnout. It was really fun to see them dressed up in kind of matching t-shirts, and many of them did kind of like chants or did something special before they crossed the bridge. So trying to really think about our technical outreach as a community engagement method, which I think is really helping us engage more with unique communities, as well as doing videos and things that can be kind of evergreen, like our vehicle miles traveled video. I'm hoping Matt's promoted that here, but if you haven't had the chance to watch it, I hope that you will. I do think it's a good little explainer, and we've been trying to encourage other organizations that we work with that have to talk about VMT to please share it and spread it. We don't feel like this is proprietary. We really just want to help get the word out there. The more people that understand VMT, the easier it'll be for us as we go out to talk about projects. So that is the end of my short but sweet presentation. Again, I would love to open it up to all of you to hear about what you think would be really vital to do in your community, or if there's a certain engagement activity you'd love to see us at. Again, we are a small but mighty staff, so we can't be at every farmer's market. That's sort of kind of tough. But we do want to be out and with our community. I will also say, if there's some communications area of expertise you hold or that you'd like to share with me, my door is always open, and I really love to learn from folks. You know your communities really well, and I'd love to hear from you about how we can best engage with them. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And Ed has volunteered to work the table for you in Clayton at the Oktoberfest
We
for
would
4
love
hours.
that.
So
No,
way to go, Ed.
absolutely.
I am the secretary of that organization, actually, the
good.
Clayton Business and Community Association.
Awesome.
Serve as an
Okay.
officer.
We're going to
Then
go
we'll
around.
see you there.
We're going to go around with questions, comments this way.
I'm going to pass this time.
I just wanted to say that I did see you guys at Oktoberfest last year. Was just delighted, and the booth seemed to have some good flow going through it. So I was really excited to see that engagement, and I'm excited to check out the stuff, especially like the online community and stuff. I'm going to look up that on the website. Thank you.
Wearing my mom hat. I know that you guys came out to my kids' school, and they did a bicycle safety, which was really well received by the students, and a great public service announcement. I know there was 1 or 2 classes, I think, that went out to Gomentum Station as a field trip, and I would encourage more of that. I think getting some of these young kids interested in transportation and what's coming up around the corner is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
I was at Hercules Night Out, National Night Out last year, so I'm just promoting it. I think it would be pretty fun for anyone who can come out there and check it out. And I'll be looking for you.
We'll be there.
This year. Thank you.
I just had one quick question. Are there any events in the future surrounding those 3 projects that we spoke about earlier? I know obviously the projects you have listed are not run strictly by the CCTA, but you participate in those. But is there anything, any plans or anything?
No, it's a great question, actually. So, yes, the Rossmore event is going to be a little less open to the public because Rossmore itself is a little less open to the public, and we're going to try to honor some of that. And also, it's just quite difficult to get everyone's names and phone numbers pre-registered. But for the Martinez project, we will do a public launch, and certainly I plan to invite the CAC and hope that all of you will come out if you're able to. That is going to be just a more publicly accessible project, and we'll definitely be relying on the public to help us spread the word about it. So there will be a public event likely in early August, at least that's our hope. I don't know if Jack's still behind me, but we'd love for you to join us there. And I will say, while the community event series is sort of our get out and spread information about CCTA effort, there are other community events I think we certainly are interested in engaging in, and my hope is that next fiscal year we can start to explore some of those. One idea I have is to engage better with the libraries. A lot of our local libraries are really great about putting on community programs, and I think it would be a good opportunity to be there during the day and maybe reach some folks who don't necessarily go to community events.
All right, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was nice seeing you last year at the Martinez Farmers Market. Well, maybe next year we'll get you back on.
This year we were at the barbecue event, the Father's Day barbecue event in Martinez.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
I wanted to ask, when you're doing outreach at these community events, what's the most common topic of interest or concern that comes up when you're talking with the public?
It's a really good question. And last year, we actually had a lot of technical boards, like different projects that related to the area. And so we were able to kind of gather feedback on some of those, which did kind of impact the data, I will say, a little bit, because part of what ended up coming out of it was, well, what information was provided, which wasn't universal. So one of the things this year that I wanted to do was try to provide a pretty universal experience so that we could better gauge what folks were asking about and engaging in. Now, we do generally bring a Presto shuttle, and so that becomes the number one topic of conversation. Folks are curious about what it is and what it does and where it operates, and then why. Just as was asked tonight, why is CCTA interested in this, and what is our overall goal? I would say that generally pedestrian and bike safety also comes up pretty consistently. That's something that we saw listed pretty commonly in last year's final report. And then traffic and congestion, right? General questions about why traffic is, or, you know, people will say, like, why don't you just do blank, right? Most of us have an idea that seems very obvious, and we want to understand why it's not being deployed. So I think those come up often. But I would say pretty consistently questions about autonomous vehicles or the shuttle that's on site, bike and ped projects, and then congestion. We do in East County often get, why doesn't BART go here? Or questions about, why is it that there's nothing down 680? I think those are often kind of consistently showing up questions.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you for your presentation. No questions.
Oh, thank you.
Lindsay, not just you, but I'm cordially inviting, not just Lindsay, but everyone here to El Cerrito's 4th of July celebration. So at El Cerrito Vista Park, nice and cool in El Cerrito, we get the breeze. So do bring a sweater, but 4th of July in El Cerrito. And you know why? Because for El Cerrito and Richmond residents to get to Hercules for National Night Out, it's really hard. We have to take the car. And so we'd rather bike over there. So it's 4th of July in El Cerrito, please. And I did want to ask, Richmond's in Contra Costa County, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So I should have put up all of the events that we've attended. I only put up the ones upcoming so that you all could mark them on your calendars. But there was 5 or 6 events that we've already done this year, and so I didn't put them up because they've passed.
No, they're not present. We don't have a representative from Richmond?
Oh, you're mentioning that they're not here.
We don't. No, okay. I'll represent them. So I'm claiming Richmond because it's kind of close, and we want to get you over to our side of the hill. So, and then the last question is, what do we? I was going to ask for an agenda topic of like, what do I do as a member of reaching out to the public? Or I think when I made my presentation on the CCTA, I kind of told my fellow, city council members or our friends, our neighbors. I just said, hey, get involved, give feedback. What are we here for? Just get involved with all the projects, and we are more politically aware in terms of what Measure R means to funding. So being aware as a citizen, especially, should I be supporting it? Should we pass the word? This is how the projects get funded. So just passing the word on. So how can I get more involved? And just, those are my 2 items.
Thank you. That's great. I'm happy to work with Matt, and we can talk about even putting together something like what does an ambassador look like for CCTA, if that is something you wanted to be, not to make that assumption.
Yes, I am. If nobody else is interested, I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lindy. I think just first off, an incredible amount of work that you've done in just a short period of time. So that's great to see. And then I did want to mention for the hometown Halloween, I think that's a great idea, and I'll try and come out and see you guys there. One of the things I've seen in Brentwood that's a little bit buzzing right now is recently you guys announced the what is it called? The autonomous
Glideways,
Glideways,
the Glideways
yes.
project.
The Glideways project on social media, maybe a few months ago. And I did hear around town, like, buzzing about that, when is it gonna come and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to provide some updates on that when you guys are in Brentwood, or some,
That's a good idea. We could reach out and even ask if they want to come with us. They might be very interested.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then I liked that idea from Rosa. I think a lot of people don't understand how transportation is funded. So if there was kind of a video or something that would help people understand, it's complicated, but how a sales tax measure, a local sales tax measure, kind of feeds into this the solutions to their issues that they're raising at these events, that would be great to put on the website.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's a great suggestion. One thing I have talked a little bit with the county about actually is trying to potentially do something with CCTV that just talks about where does your sales tax dollars go? Because we both share in this idea that a lot of folks have that question, but it's such a complex one to answer. So my hope is that we can maybe work with the county to put something together, but I love the idea of specifically just diving into, okay, but how does transportation itself fund it, and all the different sources that come to us so that we can execute? I think that's great.
Thank you, Lindy. So first, I just want to say, I had a job previously where I had to do a lot of weekend events, and so I just want to acknowledge all the hard work that it takes to go out into the community and spend your weekends, reaching out to folks. So thank you to you and your team. So I represent Concord on the CAC, and I noticed Concord wasn't on the list of events that you have coming up, and Concord is the largest or the most populous city in the county, so I want to just acknowledge that. I know the city has been doing a lot of work with groups like Bike Concord, and there's a lot of the kind of nonprofit-based organizations within Concord. So I'm sure you already have been thinking about this, but I'd highly recommend reaching out to the city and kind of connecting with those local groups and getting the word out there about community engagement around transportation issues.
Thank you, absolutely, and you're very right. Last year, we attended the Thursday Music in the Market, which is such a well-attended event. But unfortunately, they put you right behind the music if you're a community space, and so it was just really hard for us to talk to folks. We're contemplating going back. We're just asking them if they might be willing to put us somewhere else, or we're exploring if maybe instead it's more of a mobile experience and we go around and hand things out to folks, because we just recognize location-wise it was just not ideal, and we can't bring the shuttle because of how the market is set up. So I'd love to work with you in identifying what might be another event we could do in Concord. I'd really like to see it on the list for all the reasons that you named. Another thing I'd like to just quickly mention about Concord is there's this really amazing family-friendly Thursday night ride group that actually meets right here at Pleasant Hill BART, and they ride to Music in the Market, and they have lights on all of their bicycles, and they play unified music, and it's a really fun group, and we've actually started to work with them a little bit to think about, is there some way that we can work together to do some kind of community engagement thing? But all that is to say, you're absolutely right, and if you have any suggestions, we're very open.
Yeah, and I'll also say I love the idea of you coming back and doing kind of a policy update or legislative update. And I know we've talked about signing on to letters potentially as an organization. So we'll throw that out there and just show my support behind it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Do you guys have any sense of what the knowledge level is of the public that even CCTA exists? I mean, is it 2%, 5%, higher? I mean, do you have any sense from surveys or anything?
This is a fantastic question. We do have a little bit, but I would say the data is pretty old, so I don't even really want to reference it because we're talking
But it's probably low, right?
It is low, yeah. I would say it's probably raised a little bit in the last year, partially because we just have gotten more media coverage. We've got about $1 million in paid media, what would be the equivalent of paid media coverage in the last year. Partially the Glideways project has contributed to that, some of these ADS projects. I think that that's helped a little bit, also being out in the community more, but we can't know that unless we do right, some pretty significant polling, and I'm cognizant of the cost of polling, but I do think it has a lot of value, and it is something that we've talked about. If you see value in it, I think that's really
No,
helpful
I'm
to
not,
hear.
I don't, I think I was just trying to confirm it's low, which I think we agree. So I completely agree about educating people of what the funds are going to. I bet most people have absolutely no idea that you're funding different things and causing money to be spent on safety for kids, some of the smart intersections and stuff. I bet they have no clue that it's coming. And so, you know, each community has its rag newspaper that comes out on Thursdays or whatever day that it comes out. I mean, people read them, at least in our community. I think trying to have a program of going to those editors and those reporters that do that and trying to customize a little bit for each town. I mean, the more they know about you, certainly the more likely they'll be to pay for sales tax extensions and things, you know, in the future. But it's too bad because, I mean, I was in the industry and I knew who you were, but I don't think any of my neighbors know who CCTA is at all. So anyway,
That's positive.
It's a challenge.
It's helpful feedback, though,
Yeah.
and it is the challenge, but it's what makes the job fun. And I will say, I think that one thing that can be helpful, and even with staff, is putting together sort of an elevator pitch of like, what is CCTA? And if we do come back and talk about what does ambassadorship look like, I'm happy to share something that, because when I go out in the public, the first thing I say is, have you ever heard of CCTA? And most of the time people say no. And I say, well, we're a special district, and when you buy something out in the community, half of a penny comes back to us, but we can only spend it on transportation. And pretty quickly people are like, wait, what? You're not the county? Like how, you know, it's something people are curious about. They want to know where their own money goes, and they want to understand how transportation is funded. But we do need to make it quick and easy and accessible for folks. Thank you.
Yeah, I would imagine they don't know the difference between you and the county. They just think it's all the same, right?
Yeah, but when you say we're a special district and we're separate, it clicks for folks. Like, they do understand government structure on a basic level. They know their county and city are separate, right? They know their water district is separate from their city. And I think that we just, again, have to find the language to help make that easy to understand.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I don't have anything because, you know, I think you're awesome and all of that. That does lead to other points, though. Matt, you owe us a letter that we're supposed to be sending. So any updates on that?
Yeah, I was going to cover it under other business.
Okay, you could do it there. All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you. I assume there's still no public comment or anything?
We have not received any public comments.
Okay. And seeing the mass number of people in the audience, thank you so much. Oh, freebies. I claim dibs on 3 sunglasses. 3 little girls at home. Okay. The super fabulous Matt, who always puts up with me and my craziness. Thank you, Matt. Will you introduce our next speaker, please?
Only until the end of the meeting tonight, Chair Ash. But it's been fun. So tonight we have Ying Smith. She's director of our mobility programs. And she is here to talk about an effort that is a very significant effort for CCTA. It's our integrated transit plan. As you know, there's several operators in this county amongst dozens in the Bay Area, and Ying has been working with them to come up with an integrated plan for transit in the county. And I'm not going to say any more and just turn it over to Ying so she can present to you.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you for inviting me to this committee, and good evening, everyone. So good to see you, meet you for the first time. My name is Ying Smith, Director of Mobility Programs, and actually I've been here for about 20 months with CCTA, and tonight I want to share with you a high-level overview of the Integrated Transit Plan, and it's just because it's a pretty comprehensive program. And what I can give you is just an overview, and I will also later on talk about how you can get more information of this work and engage with us. So as Matt mentioned, and we, in our county, we have many transit providers, and just want to share with you is in the Transportation Expenditure Plan that we develop a transit first policy for Contra Costa County. And also in that expenditure plan, it has a direction for CCTA to prepare this integrated transit plan. The effort is also a response to several regional efforts, including MTC, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission's Blue Ribbon Task Force, and their Fare Integration Study, as well as the ongoing regional network management. Just by way of a background, back in about 2021, CTA engaged conversations with the bus operators, and then collectively we agreed that taking this proactive approach to look at the county's transit services as a whole, that is a very good response to the regional efforts. The Integrated Transit Plan, the ITP, will serve as a blueprint for a customer-centered approach to transit delivery, especially in this post-pandemic environment. And here is how the vision guides our study. And as Matt mentioned, there are like many transit services available in Contra Costa County. The rail service at BART, as well as Capital Corridor, ferry services between Richmond and San Francisco. Plus, we'll have 4 bus operators, and going from west to east, AC Transit, WestCat, County Connection, and Tri-Delta Transit. And along with MTC, those are our 5 partners in the study. And just want to share with you this overall goal in our, to guide the integrated transit plan. I'm having a little bit of trouble with my cursor here. And then I'll go into more details of those tasks. Just a little bit background on the collaborative partnership among the transit operators. Many people who either they take transit or not, they may not know they're like actually different bus providers. And it can be really confusing for some passengers, especially they have to cross the so-called service areas. But many people may not know that our 4 bus operators, they have actually have a very long history of collaboration. Part of the segmentation of our service is because of geography. You know, there's mountains and hillsides and river and other artificial boundaries. So that's kind of the history where we end up with 4 bus providers, but doesn't mean that they didn't collaborate. For example, they coordinate on the schedule, the bus schedule. They also really do a good job in meeting the BART services. If any lack of services because the budget, right? They couldn't, when BART is, for example, the yellow line is running at a 10-minute headway or every 10 minutes, is difficult because many of our bus operators cannot provide, they can afford a 10-minute frequency. So that's when it is more challenging when you transfer from a BART to bus. But besides the schedule coordination, the 4 agencies, bus agencies, County Connection, Tri-Delta Transit, Livermore, the Wheels, as well as WestCat, they offer the East Bay Regional 30-day pass. It's like a monthly pass, and that is acceptable in all those 4 agencies. So we want to continue on this level of collaboration, and through the ITP, really look for the more opportunities to coordinate as well as reintegrate the service. So the goal is for the customers, they can see from outside it's a more seamless system, regardless who provides the service. So a little bit of a schedule as well as a task. So generally our schedule, the ITP is organized by these 5 tasks, starting from the evaluation of existing service, as well as the market assessment. And the second task is to develop the action plans. That's on the transit side, how we can provide the service better. Task 3 is to look for some policy and institutional changes. Task 4 is to develop a capital improvement program. The capital improvement program is to support this higher level of services. Then I will give you some examples how those tasks 2 and 4 come together. Task 3 is very unique. We ask the consultant to really look beyond today's institutional or like that kind of organization to look for what, like say, if you have all the power in the world, what changes from the policy as well as the organizational standpoint, what changes will make a big difference. So I'll go into a little bit detail later. And task 5 is a public and stakeholder engagement. And we think the plan is to complete the entire study in about 24 months. We started in spring of 2023, so we're about halfway through. So go into a little bit detail of each task. The first one we actually were pretty much done, but just like you know, here are the details of what we do. We'll look at the existing service, that's on the supply side. We'll look at the market, both it's today's travel demand as well as the projected future travel demand. We also learn a lot from the past behavioral studies that CCTA completed, and look at the equity from using the equity lens to really look at the underserved and unserved markets. And here we'll use look at the latent demand to look for those opportunities. So as mentioned, we have finished the draft assessment. At the board workshop last October, the team presented the market assessment results with to the authority board, and we also partner with our transit operators to really kind of bring it home, like how the market relates to the services. And so there's a little bit detail of scope change that kind of gave us more budget to do additional work that was kind of being reviewed in the market assessment stage. And task 2 is the action plan, is say how we can really improve and integrate our services. What we do is we look beyond today's funding level. So that's pretty much financially unconstrained using the approach, and to look beyond, to look at future of transit in this county, and we'll look for efficiency, opportunities for expansion, as well as some innovation, some ideas that really kind of outside the box thinking in both the technology side as well as the service delivery, the kind of the business model approach. So what we have done is we actually, based on the results from task 1, we have some draft ideas, and we did the workshops with the individual transit agencies. And from there, we really get some feedback, some ideas they like, some ideas people don't like, and we go back and sharpen the pencils and kind of make it better. And just want to share with you some of the concepts we get from task 2. Let's see. There, among the other ideas in the action plans, we look at transit priority corridors. That's where we really want to invest in transit. That's where we have either really strong ridership today, or we see great potential. And that's where we want to really spend the big bucks, so-called. The transit priority corridors not only want to improve the transit frequency, but also the capital improvements to make sure the buses go, like transit signal priorities and or some street improvements to really allow the priority for transit services. The next level is frequent bus network. Here we're talking about very minimal capital improvements, but just improved frequency. And the third group of ideas are the micro-transit as well as the station feeder in the connection zones. And the fourth group of ideas involve the active transportation, kind of the walking and biking and micro-mobility options to connect to the transit stations as well as bus stops. The next group of ideas are the emerging mobility solutions, like some of the things like you heard from Jack. So we really want to introduce the new ideas and either do a pilot or a kind of limited location where we can really test out the new ideas. And there's a little bit overlap. The last group is the shared mobility hubs. We think like there are different tiers of shared mobility hubs. Some of them can be very robust. And you know that 2 of them are under design. One is the Bollinger Canyon Road. The other one is at Martinez Amtrak Station. The ITP will map out the rest of the county and introduce different topography to look at what at what location, what level of services and investment will be most appropriate. And I mentioned a little bit about the institutional and policy changes. We see it as a more policy paper. And in this task, not only we look at the transit and transportation providers, but we also engage the cities, because a lot of changes are more on the land use and parking. That's where we probably get the best return, but we understand that's probably where it will be most challenging. But we see this as an opportunity to engage our other agency partners beyond just on one side, just the transit providers. We did have the workshop, the first workshop, the so-called framing workshop. We invited all the city staff. We just have a very interesting finding. Kind of what I learned is similar to my experience in Santa Clara County. There's just not enough dialogue between the transit providers and the city, the cities who make the land use and parking decisions. So this is will be probably the policy paper will make many people uncomfortable, but that's why hopefully we can at least start the conversation and continue the conversation to start to make some difference. So the task for, as I mentioned, those are the capital improvements which support the service level. And so it's a bit different from other like kind of capital projects. Some ideas that are very well established, transit signal priorities and transit corridors. Another idea is how we engage activate the active transportation modes, biking and walking to support transit. And shared mobility hubs, that's another area of very heavy capital investment. And our status is, we just started that because we are wrapping up task 2 and starting task 3, and task 4, we just started that process. And stakeholder engagement, just want to share with you, we do have a web page on the CCTA website. If you just go under there and search for Integrated Transit Plan. I encourage all you to take a visit because it has more information as well as some of the documents. It's also a way for people to provide comments, and my email address is right there. And then so people can engage and ask to receive feedback or ask just get more information or have suggestions for us. Another very interesting thing we are doing now is a public survey. We do want to attract more transit riders, but it's open to everyone, and it's still ongoing. We did some events to at the bus stops throughout the county to engage the transit riders, but it is open to everyone. So encourage you to take a look at our website, and if you can spare 5 minutes of your time, please take the survey for us. And and many, we have workshops, really engage the stakeholders, engage our board as well as the public. So that's kind of the overview of what this ITP is about. And I think we can talk about like what's going to happen next. So we just continue. You have many other opportunities to provide feedback, and please feel free to write to me or call me and talk about the ITP. I love talking about transit. And our goal is to finish it in the spring of next year. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Great. Thank you, Ying. I really appreciate that. All right, we're going to horseshoe around. So we're going to start in the corner and come this way. And I will be back in a minute. But questions, comments?
I have just a few questions. You touched on this. So I'm just curious if you can maybe provide more details in the ways that ITP will integrate with the regional transportation plans, and like MTC, BART. I think you mentioned a 30-day pass that can be used on the other transportation systems, if I heard that correctly. So if you can shed a little bit more details on how all that's going to work.
Okay, I take that as like kind of two different topics. On the 31-day pass, it's actually just is offered by any of the 4 transit providers here in our county, as well as Livermore in the wheels. And you just buy one, and that's honored in all agencies. So it's really helpful for people who have to take their bus on 2 different agencies. And you can just go to their website to find out. And it's on Clipper. So actually, I think if you use Clipper, if you have the app, you can choose that as an option to buy it.
Okay, that's helpful.
Okay.
Next question is that if you can provide more details on the strategies ITP employs to overcome institutional barriers and foster collaboration among the other various transit agencies?
Yeah, I think I touched on a little bit about what really makes a difference is on the land use side. But if you go back to just on the transit, the service provider side, we actually we're doing that already, but it's more of the service that can be, if a service crosses the boundary in, actually I think Lindy mentioned that there is a 680 corridor, there are like conversations and there's a plan to provide service along 680. It crosses 2 service providers. What the likely to happen is county connection will provide the service, and then we'll find a cost-sharing structure to split with LAFTA. And LAFTA was later on added as another partner. So we see that kind of crossing the barrier can be done, hopefully become the normal. It's not like every time we have to set up something, right? It will really, hopefully, will break some barriers. It will become just a normal thing to do. If there's a need, there's a demand for the travel between those 2 points. If it crosses the service area line, the 2 agencies or 3 agencies should just work together. And we just want to normalize that kind of practice.
Okay, that's helpful. A couple more questions left. Third one, how do you all plan to address the first and last mile connectivity issues, particularly in areas with lower population density?
I think there are a few tools within our toolbox. We talk about bicycle and pedestrian, like a biking can really expand how far people like the catchment zone. I speak from my experience. I was a bike commuter. Now I just take BART. But some people that could be just cumbersome for them to own a bike, or they haven't owned a bike. So bike share is an option. So the micro-mobility option. And the other two is the shared mobility hub, right? So we want to build those facilities to allow multiple modes to all converge at one point and provide amenities for our passengers. So they don't feel like they're being in the middle of nowhere, right? You want to like comfortable sitting area with information, hopefully in a digital format. So they feel like, okay, if I have to make that connection, if I had to ride my bike and get here, I know when the bus will be here. So that's the kind of facility to support that kind of transfer. I think the other really the great opportunity is back to the new technology, the emerging technologies, right? The SAVs can serve the first last mile connection problem. The autonomous driving vehicles could be another solution. And we're looking at also other options that will be available, and we do need to build infrastructure to support it. So we are having an area we call emerging technologies. We don't want to be too prescriptive because we know this space is fast changing, right? If we get too prescriptive, we're not open to other new ideas coming in, our plan may become very stale. And we want to just keep it in a way that to allow that kind of the areas that we think that we're, especially with the first last mile challenges, we introduce new technologies and support those solutions.
Okay, thank you. Last question. How do you all plan to balance or address the balance between improving existing transit services and expanding into new areas?
I think the good news is where transit has been successful, the locations and the population, they tend to be successful in the future if we can provide, like, invest more. Granted, there are areas that we don't know that are either a new development or new customers that we haven't tapped into. We're open to that. But the transit industry's experience is you get better return on investment when you invest in your core customers. And in a way, it's good news because you just need to kind of reward the good performance by providing, like, increasing the service level. The flip side is we don't have that many, we haven't been too successful in attracting the untapped market. Not necessarily is, transit is not for everyone. I'm a diehard transit rider, but I'm the first to tell you that we are not trying to get to the 100% of the market. If our share today is 10%, if we can get to 15, that's a huge success. We're not trying to get to 100%. We really want to invest our dollars in that, say, the next 5%. We need to be smart about it. So I think that is a kind of work by itself. That's the balancing act we're trying to get to.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation, Ying. I know this is a huge, long process and very iterative, and it sounds like you have a huge breadth of activities and engagement. So thank you for that. I believe in your ITP plan, I've read some sections about, kind of a climate action plan involved in that plan. I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit more to that. I know, a lot of that is, focused on reducing greenhouse gases by vehicle miles traveled, but I'm wondering if you can speak to more of the infrastructure opportunities, like white pavement, bioswales for flooding, tree coverage, and various things like that.
I think maybe, I don't think the ITP covers that climate action plan. Maybe it's the climate will be addressed in the countywide transportation plan.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. But I think we're doing the part of reducing automobile trips and reducing VMT. That's how hopefully transit can contribute to the climate issues.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Ying. Ed Miller from Clayton. My question will be very brief, and I don't need any detail, but were there any aspects of your integrated transit plan explorations that involved shared, not shared payment, more like pricing of transportation across multiple modes within the county, or is this really the purview of, I think there's maybe an MTC project that's looking at this on a Bay Area-wide basis?
So, yeah, I just want to ask for clarification. When you say pricing of different transportation modes, you say transit versus driving, or different transit modes?
Yeah. Transit in the sense of like, hey, I want to get from point A to point B, and for this part, I'm going to be on the bus, and on here, I'm going to be Amtrak, and then I'm going to be on this other bus system, like maybe a bus for my mile to get to Amtrak over to somewhere in East County, and then I get out and Tri-Delta Transit or something like that. And so I'm trying to get one price to pay, so to speak, to cross multimodal.
I think, yeah, we would touch on that, on how the fare can be a barrier to some passengers and what are the opportunities to lower the barrier so transit can be more successful. On our coordination with MTCs is really taking the lead on that kind of fare integration.
Okay.
Yeah, I think fare integration is probably the word. Yeah. And we want to look for what hasn't been covered by the MTC's effort, or what are unique in Contra Costa County in our customers, where we can find those opportunities. We will touch fare and fare integration to some extent without duplicating MTC's work.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Ying. Just a clarifying question for me. Is this Contra Costa County specific, or are we looking across the county lines? PC Transit, is that Alameda County Transit?
And goes Bay, across the bridge.
Yeah, so I guess where I'm going with the question, there's a lot of journeys that cross county lines, and the integration, even I think to get to the laboratories would be Alameda County. So a lot of Contra Costa citizens who were to serve actually have journeys that go elsewhere, and some of this integration probably needs to be touching some of the neighboring jurisdictions. It seems perhaps some of that's happening, but I'm not sure. So maybe just let you have a minute to speak to what extent we consider going across county lines with this work versus it stays very inwardly focused within the county. Just how does that work for us?
You're definitely correct on that. Many our travel trips, like both within the county and cross the county line. Yes, the ITP covers all trips on transit or all travel patterns, right? Or like some of the travel patterns that is not covered by transit today, and what are the opportunities. So that's why we look at those patterns in our market assessment. We look at both within the county, the intra-county travel, as well as the inter-county travel. And on actual all directions, right? Not only crossing the Bay, but also further down to Alameda County to North Bay. And there's some suggestion to look at travel to Central Valley, although the numbers are very low for travel going to Central Valley. But yet we go beyond, even though it's called Contra Costa Integrated Transit Plan, we look at how our residents and workers travel, and they could come from within our county or beyond.
Thank you.
So I kind of have a couple questions, sort of more about the process and stuff. So how often is this plan done, and how long does it last for?
This is actually the first time we're doing the integrated transit plan, and in Contra Costa County. It's actually very unique among the Bay Area. MTC really sees this as a good example of like crossing the agency service area. So it's how often, I can only say this is the first time, and we see the needs. And how long does it last? It's a bit different from, I think, the planning staff would come to talk to you about the countywide transportation plan. This one, we don't necessarily have a fiscal constraint, and we look beyond, right? Many of our actions, we kind of really have a long horizon. We hope some of them will be implemented sooner rather than later, but it depends on funding. Some of them maybe really have long 20-year, 30-year time frame, because we have some very ambitious ideas, and I hope they will happen sooner, but the reality tells me that it could take us more than 10 years to implement some of the grand ideas.
Okay, all right. Well, that's amazing that it's the first one and that nobody else does it, because it seems like a pretty important thing. So that's really good. I'm glad to hear that. I was definitely interested in the comments about how the 4 bus companies are kind of cooperating, as much as they can. I certainly had the impression that they didn't not they specifically, but lots of transit. I think that's been a massive problem, at least for consumers. So I'm glad we're doing a few things right. The other thing more about this, clearly this is a long-term plan. It's very dependent on whatever funding comes from it. So you've probably got some projects that are maybe low-hanging fruit that might get done, and others that might never get done. But how binding is this to the parties that are a part of it? And is it just the bus companies, or is BART tied into this on some, who's tied into this sort of agreement to try to do these things?
So the five funding agencies, they all have invested in money in this one. MTC gave us a grant, gave CCTA a grant, and the four bus agencies, they voted to have their Measure J allocation, part of the Measure J allocation from 2 years ago to fund it. So they're all very committed. When you have money, they all have some skin in the game. CCTA definitely has invested, and we also get grant money. We see this is a very collaborative process. We hope the results will be built on consensus, and then so we can move to implementation, right? If people don't buy in, they may just, okay, it's good on the plan, but they will not implement. The implementation can happen by any agency. We hope the plan will help position CCTA and agencies in Contra Costa County to be competitive when we get grant money. For example, transit priority corridor, transit signal priority is a very, very agreed upon improvement. And we hope with this plan, when we map out those corridors and we have an analysis behind it, will help us get money from MTC, from the state, or maybe even from the federal agencies. So we see this is not necessarily binding, but there's a lot of commitment among the partners.
Okay, and I think to me, that's what the authority is there, is to help coordinate all of these things.
Yes.
Obviously, getting the money's harder. What do you think are the hardest things that you're having to deal with, or what's likely to make it less successful maybe than it could be? What are those problems that are out there?
I think a lot of services call for, a lot of our recommendations call for increased level of service, the frequency. Frequency is really, really the king in attracting riders and retaining our riders. That requires higher level of operating budget. What we have in reality is the fiscal cliff among the transit agencies. So what we're facing today and in the near future is going the opposite direction of where we want to be. That will be really our biggest challenge. If the transit agencies told us if we have the money, we know how to run the buses. I mean, granted, we may have different opinions. What is the best plan to run? We can have a healthy debate about it. But the harsh truth is we just don't have enough ongoing operating budget to support that level of service. So, yeah, I really want to be optimistic about it. So let's just keep doing the work, and hopefully things will turn out. So, yeah.
Thanks, Ying. Just one quick question, since you talked about the fiscal cliff for all four of these transit agencies, I'm assuming. I was wondering if it might be difficult to do since they're all partner agencies in this process, but has there been any serious study or discussions about consolidating the four transit agencies into one, or into any smaller number as part of this study?
Not as part of this study. There's the word consolidation is not in the study.
So, sorry, there's so many. The reason I'm here is because my goal is to decrease people on the cars and find a solution for that. But I don't take the bus because, like you said, I did like to hear the fact that you said increasing the frequencies will help, and that's one of the reasons. And so I think I was thinking in terms of when you made the presentation, I was thinking of targeting like schools. What I see in my community is that our culture is to drive a car because we feel safe, we control, and we can do whatever, we can go wherever we want. It's our time. And if we could at least target the commuters to get them off the freeway, and at least target like the school children and get that culture of taking the bus. But when I think about children taking a bus, they have to be safe, and parents need to be safe. So we right now in our laws, like I can take a little kid's bag and I can get away with it practically. But I think that in public transit, we should at least protect the system itself. Defacing public systems is very important. And at least in Contra Costa, it would be nice if you work with our district attorney to at least prosecute to the full extent, or at least adjusting the laws in Contra Costa to protect our systems, keep them clean and safe, and also keeping people safe. Women need to be, you need to feel safe, and also children. If we can plan on doing that more often. And since schools are a certain number of years, that can, you can have the funding for that for certain hours. We do have a lot of events like football games. A lot of parents like to come and drive, but we don't have that culture of driving the bus because we just don't do that. So if we did a party bus, your question was, is it a bus or a taxi world? My dream is a party bus with another bus for quiet people, but yeah, for the quiet, there could be the quiet bus, but the party bus, to me, party bus it's fun. It's hip. It's something different. I don't get that in the car, and I don't get that in the taxi. So we have to do something fun that's safe. So party bus, and so integration. And the last comment is, I can't find your survey, so I do want to give you my feedback, but it's not online. So I did look for integrated transit plan, and it doesn't come up on the website, on CCTA's website.
I noticed with some updates, so where the ITP webpage was resigned, it got a bit changed, but I'm happy to send, if that's okay with Chair, I'm happy to send the link to the ITP as well as the survey. Just want to quickly address some of your comments. And safety is quite a concern in recent years. And in our coordination with MTC, they also highlight that one in their Transit 2050 Plus. And then we do want to address that. That's one of the barriers. Like I would say maybe even 5 years ago, that was not as a big concern. But now today in the transit industry is the safety for the passengers as well as the safety for the drivers. So we do want to address that in our study. And I would appreciate your comments about like kind of different population, different uses, and we look for, in our market assessment, we do break down to the type of users, the type of trips by location. So that kind of gives us some insight on like how to attract different groups of people and different trips. So appreciate your comments.
I just think that my demographic's been overlooked, and I really wish you would try to get me off my feet and off my car and off my bike and onto public transit so that we could help out with congestion. Thank you.
Thank you.
No comments. Thank you for your presentation.
All right. Thank
Thanks.
you, all of you.
So the September meeting will be on a party bus, right, Emily? You're going to get on that? Thank you. So I ask every city that comes in here for Measure J checklist about talking to other cities and planning ahead. So I really appreciate, like, here's an integration and agencies coming together to do that. I was going to ask about the Clipper card. I know there's, I don't know if you know this or Matt might, there's an updated Clipper card coming with the goal that it's one swipe, better coordination between buses, BART. Any of you have an update? I'm curious.
Today's Clipper card allows you to get on all the Bay Area operators today. There's, and then you can buy different passes, or say a monthly pass on County Connection, and you can have cash for BART. There is a Clipper 2, but with no schedule. The schedule is TBD. Clipper 2 will give us more functions, and that especially dealing with different, like the typical adult fare is a little bit easier to deal with, but people with either the seniors or students or people, disabled individuals, Clipper 2 will give us really more tools to handle that, but we don't, MTC doesn't have a schedule for it yet, for the implementation.
Okay.
And that's something we could have MTC staff report to this committee on?
Yeah, that would be good. I appreciate that. And I do have, for shameless self-promotion, I do have a podcast episode out where I interview County Connection and AC Transit general managers from 3 weeks ago, where we actually talk a lot about the need for bus agencies to work together to serve the people of the East Bay, and everything from their climate goals to integration and all of that. So check out the capstone conversation. So thank you, Ying, for that. I really appreciate that. Is there any public comment? I see masses in the audience again.
We have not received any public comments.
Awesome. So thank you so much. That concludes our regular agenda items. Can't leave yet, guys. Do any committee members or staff have anything they would like to share? Should we start with Matt?
Yeah, so I wanted to follow up on the item that was mentioned earlier. As you remember or most of you were here back in March, we had Capital Corridors Planning Director Jim Allison present to this group. You guys had a lot of feedback for him and a discussion in which you decided, or you felt that this body should issue a comment letter. So in how things work at CCTA is our advisory committees don't issue their own letters, the board does. So what we're doing is bringing Jim Allison to our board on July 17th, so the board can see what you saw. And what we've done is we've put your comments in their staff report so they know what you opined on or what your concerns were during your meeting. And then based on the feedback from our board on the 17th, we will develop an actual letter that incorporates all the comments from this committee and the board. And we can bring that back to you in the fall. So.
Great.
And if any of you, including the chair, current chair, past chair, want to attend that meeting, any of you who contributed to that conversation, please feel free to, or if you just want to, you can zoom in and provide comment. That would be great. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Any other announcements from Matt?
You can represent yourself whoever you are that day.
Emily, anything? Okay, stand for parking. Any members, any announcements, questions, future agenda topic items? Yeah, go ahead, Rosa.
I recorded, I think 4. My laptop was dying, so I had to.
The ambassadors and the policy, federal state policy
legislative update.
Yeah, those are the two that I caught. And I think we talked about, Matt, doing I guess maybe we'll do chair and past chair. We should do an update from like the last year in review from the CAC to the board. And because we've gotten a lot of comments that the board doesn't know exactly what we do as this committee. And so maybe it would be good if we can get on a future agenda. Maybe Michael and I could do that together. Talk about what we've done, where we're going, and educate them, because I think you all add a lot of value, and I want to emphasize that. So that would be mine, and it's been a pleasure to serve you. I'd like to close this meeting at 8:28 p.m. and my last hammer.